Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Nick Zulovich, part of the team at Cherokee Media Group and senior editor at Subprime Auto Finance News and Auto Fin Journal. In today's webinar, 3 tips for increasing customer engagement, key learnings from Podium's 2020 State of Business Texting. We're going to learn more from Haley Sontag and Jason Reese of Podium. But before we get started, just a couple of quick housekeeping items for today's webinar. You will be in listen-only mode for our session today, and we are recording the webinar, and we'll make that recording available to you as soon as possible. So keep watch of your inbox for a message containing a link to it so you can review the great presentation and share it with others at your store. If you have any immediate questions, we will reserve some time after the presentation for a Q&A segment. Just use the chat function in the Zoom platform to submit your question. So with plenty of knowledge and information to share, let's get right to Haley and Jason for our webinar. The floor is now yours.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nick. We're really excited to be here today, and thank you to everyone who is joining us. We are going to be going over, obviously, the 3 tips for increasing customer engagement, like Nick was saying, using the key learnings from our 2020 State of Business Texting report. We are excited to dive in, so let's take a look quickly at the agenda. We split the webinar into 3 main sections. First is going to be the current state of customer communication. We'll be covering expectations and perceptions of both businesses and customers. And then we'll get into the meat of the presentation, the 3 tips for increasing customer engagement. And then we'll wrap it up with what to look for in a text messaging solution and how you can best implement some of the tips that we have in your dealership. Like Nick said, my name is Haley Sontag. I am a senior marketing specialist at Podium. I'm joined by Jason Reese. He is our expert in all things auto. So we're excited to have him joining us and his insights with the hundreds of dealerships that he works with every single day. And I'm going to turn it over to Jason to get us started. Can you hear us, Jason?
Yep, I can hear you guys. Thank you very much, Haley and Nick. Are you hearing me okay on this?
Yeah, sounds good.
Perfect. This Zoom meeting world we're all in is fun. We're getting a lot more used to it. So, but yeah, as Haley was saying, so I work specifically with automotive dealerships, and I personally cover the Southeast territory, so Florida and all those surrounding states, and I absolutely love it. And I've learned a lot as I've been with Podium for 2 years on just texting in general and engaging customers, and our most successful customers that do that, and some of them that aren't as successful. So excited to share this with you. Now, as far as the current state of business and customer communication. So what we have found, and Podium has done some studies, but I'm going to reference here real quick, J.D. Power executive summary study, and this was at the end of 2019. So we're going to have another one of these released here probably within the next week or 2 from J.D. Power, if it already hasn't been released, with dealerships specifically. And what they found is of the 28,000 sales customers and 71,000 service customers, the preference for text communication and messaging has increased very steadily every single year for the last 5 years. And with this pandemic, I would imagine it's even more so, but dealerships are not keeping up with that. So where people, at least this 2019 study was about 40% of service customers and sales customers prefer texting. Actual usage from dealerships has only increased from like 2% to about 12% over that time period. And yeah, so it's like, this is less than half, but it's like less than a quarter, I would say, of auto dealerships are really effective at communicating with customers. And it makes sense. I mean, communicating is very difficult, and especially I mean, it's your customers want to do it, but the other thing you have to think about is your team and your staff and making it easy for them to communicate. Otherwise, from what I hear, a lot of staff just pull out their own personal cell phone number to text customers because they still want to engage, but that's not ideal for you as the business owner. So moving along here, yeah, so these percentages are kind of in line of what businesses believe customers prefer to engage through, which a lot of dealerships I talk to believe customers prefer to engage through email. And there's a lot of emails getting sent or phone calls with, like, let's say that random lead that comes in, right, from Auto Trader or Car Gurus. You give them a call and you leave a voicemail and then you wait to hear back and give another call. And that's just not how people, generally speaking, prefer to communicate, at least not off the bat. Now, phone calls are always going to be important, but with where things are trending, messaging and texting is huge, and we don't see that changing anytime soon. So the question is how or why do businesses not change and able to provide a solution to better align with what their customers are wanting?
We have a lot of stats here. You'll notice we're heavy on the stats at the beginning, but towards the middle, we're going to go into why they matter. But just a little context on the statistics that we have. We surveyed about 1,000 different businesses of all sizes, from single owners to a lot more employees, to see how they felt about communication with their customers. And this goes along with the stats that Jason just gave, with businesses thinking that customers want to communicate via email or phone, when a lot of times customers actually want to communicate via texting and messaging. So here's another interesting stat. 50% of businesses say that their communication is old-fashioned. But interestingly enough, 42% of those businesses say they don't plan on changing in the next year. So why not? If these businesses believe that their communication is old-fashioned, maybe they're not offering texting or messaging like customers are preferring, but they don't plan on changing, why is that? We want to take a second here to ask the audience what you think. We want you to put your answers. You can either put them in the Q&A box or you can put them in the webinar chat. But send your answers to us. We want to know what the biggest challenges are with updating communication channels, whether you haven't, quote unquote, updated your communication channels, what are the biggest challenges? Or if you have, what are some challenges that you had to overcome? So what are the biggest roadblocks? We'll come back to this later on in the presentation to wrap it up. When we come back, we'll let you know what we heard from businesses that we surveyed, but we want to know here right now, everyone on the call, what are the challenges that you are seeing with updating communication channels? So we have some coming in, understanding what our technology will support, from Teresa, that the technology is a huge roadblock that a lot of dealerships are facing. And I think a lot of business owners can also feel overwhelmed with a new challenge. Perhaps they're already stretched thin with communication methods that they currently have. We know that you're busy. Everyone here is busy, and time is money, that you have a lot on your plate. So it can seem time consuming and unknown about how to update your communication channels. Well, we have some more coming in. Who's going to own the management of the updates in the communication? Who is actually going to be responding to these messages? That's another great question that dealerships need to ask. If you do open these channels, who's going to manage it? Because most people are really busy already. So like I said, we'll come back later on. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was all right. Sorry, Haley. I would just want, we could answer, Teresa while we're on the call here, but you want to come back to this? Sorry, my bad if that's the case.
Oh, no, we can answer it right now. Go ahead.
Okay, so first, Teresa, understanding what our technology will support is being one of the biggest challenges. So Podium is, we're located or headquartered here in Utah. It's about I would say a 5-hour drive to Las Vegas, which is one of my favorite vacation destinations. Wonderful restaurants all up and down the strip. And I'm pretty confident in everyone that I go to that it's going to be a really good experience and really good. And you know why? Because if they're not good, they're going to be gone. They're going to be out, right? There's too much competition. I feel like that's where technology is today. And so understanding what you support. So you probably have a number of vendors that you work with. And if a vendor's not innovating and making life easier for both you and your customers, in my opinion, they're not going to last too much longer. And so you really should have like your contact at whatever that vendor is with the technology you have, and try and get regular updates from them on what they're going to support, especially if it's something specific that you're interested in, like this messaging. And if they can't do that, it is time to look at what other vendors are doing, because as things move forward, if that vendor is not innovating and doing it in a way that's easy for you, they're going to be gone, and they're going to be a laggard on kind of technology and moving your business forward. So that would be my suggestion, is to understand what it is, to go and talk to your vendor relationships there. And as far as owning the project management and updates and execution and whatnot, every dealership handles this a little bit differently. And honestly, with a platform, whatever you're using, every department might even use it a little differently. We recommend, at least with our customers at Podium, to have at least one person at the dealership that is the Podium champion, that we can train and make the expert to hopefully train everyone else. But in an ideal world, we'd have at least one person in every department, because this messaging, like sales messaging and service messaging, very, very different, right? And we want to make sure that it's working in an ideal world for your business.
Absolutely. And we can touch on that a little bit more even towards the end when we come back as well with these challenges, what we can go over those again, and then other challenges that we've seen and how you can overcome them in your business. We're going to jump now into our 3 tips for increasing customer engagement. When you're not communicating with your customers in a convenient way, it can be a lot harder to engage with them. So Jason's going to take us off, and we're going to jump into our tip number 1.
Yep. Thank you. So tip number 1, your landline, you need to make it textable. So this is something that is actually fairly easy to do. So there's companies and vendors, like Podium is one, that we do what's called hosted SMS. So our software any message from our software can come from your business landline. But if you're not, even if you're not using our software, probably your phone company or who you do your phones with most likely have an option for you to make that landline textable, and then they would have their own kind of login for you to go in and text out of that number. So I would say that's really common. 80-90% of phone numbers for businesses have the ability with your current provider to be textable. So check that out if that's not something you've done already. There's a lot of advantages to that. So one, if it's a phone number you've had and been running that your dealership with for decades, that number is pretty well known, especially your old customer base. And so you could start advertising that and put in all your signage everywhere, call or text us here. And you'll be surprised at the number of people that do actually start texting. You can put that in your phone tree when someone calls. So they don't have to wait on hold. Hey, thanks for calling us. We'll be with you shortly, or press 1 or whatever. Alternatively, shoot us a text at this number or the same number. So that's really nice, and customers will know how to reach you. The second piece here with that we are very strong believers in is a single point of contact for your customer. So we've probably all been in scenarios with a business where we're getting messages from all sorts of different numbers. And I feel like car dealerships and auto services, I feel like they're the very worst at doing this. So, personal story, this was over the summer. I have a 3-year-old daughter. She took out a garden decoration with a butterfly on it that stakes into the ground, went to my wife's car while I was mowing the lawn. I didn't see, but she used that as a as a canvas for making a very pretty artwork, scratching the entire side of the car up. Anyway, took that into the body shop, and
Yikes.
I was, yeah, she's 3 years old, so she didn't understand. Very cute, very expensive damage there. But the body shop, I got a different text message for my appointment confirmation for every single update on the vehicle, and to pay, to like everything was from a completely different phone number. There was nothing on the same thread. So every single one was like, yeah, this is great, delete, like this is not a number to save. Whereas if you as a dealership have everything from sales, handing it off from multiple departments, from BDC, for example, to the sales reps, to the service department, but it's all on the same thread, the single point of contact, that is a very, very big satisfier for customers, and they can save that number as this is my dealership that I can be texting, and I know who I'm talking to here and can track the conversation history and everything. So yeah, that's big. And then promoting that, as I already touched on, like this is a number you can text, put that on all of your signage and start promoting that going forward. And you'll, like I said, you'll be surprised at the number of people that start texting that to engage with your business.
And we've been talking a lot about messaging, making your landline textable, offering messaging to your customers. We really want to, we're focusing on this channel specifically because it is a little bit less common than some of the traditional methods like phone and email, but it's a great way to engage with your customers. And it's these messaging capabilities are more important now than ever. Customers preferred messaging even before COVID-19, before the world shut down. But now, with more businesses offering messaging, customers are jumping on that opportunity. We have a couple of stats here. So 61% of customers report exchanging text messages with a business in the last 30 days. And 12% report having exchanged a text message with a business in the last day. That is huge. Customers want to text your business, and they will if it's available. And with all of these new social distancing practices and curbside pickup, texting really is the new engagement with your customers, and we don't see it going away anytime soon. Even after restrictions are lifted, 89% of respondents say that they're likely to return to a business they first visited because of pandemic-friendly services. That's the majority of respondents are going to return to a business that they first visited because of pandemic-friendly services. These services and these new ways of doing business, customers love it and they want it to continue. So those can include contactless payments, video chat, delivery, curbside pickup, or curbside concierge. These are great services and customers love it and they want it to continue. I don't know, Jason, if you have anything to add there with some specific examples and pandemic friendly services you've seen dealerships implementing that have worked really well. If you want to add anything there.
Yeah, I mean, pandemic friendly services I've seen, and again, the dealership, there's businesses within the business, right? So for the sales side, it's really offering that more robust messaging capability. So whether that's a holding deposit, to have that be a text message where the customer can pay with Apple Pay, like super easy, or the curbside or like at home delivery and stuff. So there's stuff you can do there. You know, some of the customers I've talked to that have really been trying to think outside the box are using meetings similar to the Zoom meeting that we have, but like a video call where they can share their screen, or maybe they're just doing on their phone and doing like a FaceTime walk around with a customer of showing them a vehicle and getting them engaged that way. So there's been a number of features there on the sales side, but the service side I'd say is even bigger. So having that touchless transaction and white glove treatment where the customer can come drop off the car and never physically touch anything at the dealership, and the dealership is providing updates on their car, a way for them to pay, and locking the car in the parking lot for the customer when they come back so that they can just pick it up and go, right? And the customer can feel really comfortable and safe that this business was taking precautions to limit exposure to this pandemic, which hopefully will be back to normal here soon.
I think that brings up a good point and actually leads us into our tip number 2, which is identifying points in the customer journey where engagement is needed. So it's not just at when somebody is, say, purchasing a vehicle for the first time, but it's when that same customer, after they've purchased a vehicle, comes in for their oil change or comes in for service, or when they're coming back. So it's not just a one-time purchase and done, but keeping that engagement going so that that customer can come back again and again and have a convenient experience. We've mapped out this is a very generic customer journey, all the way from initial search to a return visit. We encourage everyone on the call to take this generic customer journey and change it up, tweak it so that it matches your customer's journey. And then once you've done that, pinpoint where you can add or increase or invite more engagement with your customers. So we already know that texting is a great way to increase engagement and the preferred way for customers to connect. So we have here a little example of ways that texting can increase engagement on each of the steps. So initial search, they find you online. They are most likely going to land on your Google My Business listing. If you have made your landline textable and you're including it there, they can immediately contact you and start a conversation from your Google My Business listing. If they don't contact you there, they may end up on your website. Include a text option on your contact us or your homepage so that when that potential customer, I guess at this point, has a question, they can start that conversation and get that question answered, which is part of the first inquiry. You want to make it easy for them to start conversations at any point in their journey, which a lot of times starts online. And then you want to make sure that you can easily transition that online conversation offline into text conversations that are on their phone. And then they set up an appointment, say they come on the lot for a test drive. You're sending them appointment reminders. They know how their experience is going to be. They purchase the vehicle, and then you want to follow up, see how their experience was. Stay connected through Messenger. I actually had my husband and I recently purchased a house, and our loan officer offered texting. So we would text him obviously throughout the entire process, but even after we purchased our home, we'll still message him sometimes when we have questions, and we still have that relationship with him. So when we want to purchase another home or we want to refinance, his number is already saved in our phone and we already have that relationship with him. So if a customer purchases a vehicle, they may have questions after the fact. Make it so you can continue that relationship with them and still answer their questions after they've already purchased. So we've got some commonly reported benefits of texting for businesses that Jason's going to go ahead and take us through.
Yeah. Thank you, Haley. So yeah, some of the benefits here. So resolving questions and concerns faster. I would say the biggest benefit my dealerships I talk to see is time, right? Time saving time. So less leads that you are leaving voicemails for and can never get a hold of people because people are busy during the day and they're not going to answer the phone, but if they see a text, they'll send you a message back, right? So there's that. And, questions, concerns, whether that's sales or service or parts, collision, anything. Like texting is so much quicker for the majority of people. So it saves a lot of time on your team and can make you more effective. So gosh, there's so many benefits that saves time, increase customer satisfaction, increase CSI scores. It's an easier way for customers to communicate, faster responses to everything. So just highlighting those bullet points there. It's yeah, it's big. If you're not doing it, it's huge. And if you are doing it, you got to figure out ways to do it even better. Because just like vendors and technology, like there's a lot of Ford dealers out there, right? There's a lot of Toyota dealers, and you stay ahead of the curve, and your dealership will grow. It's without a doubt. Um, yeah, other piece here. So we've got a quote. This is not from an auto dealership, but it still applies. I hear the same thing from dealerships quite often, is how quick they are seeing customers adapt to technology for messaging as soon as they implement it. So this could be like in this example, this would be putting, taking off your traditional web chat, or if you don't have a chat service, but just putting on instead a way for the customer to start a texting conversation with you or a messaging conversation on Facebook or something. Like you don't need to teach people how to use that. They intuitively know just from being alive in this day and age, right? So it's really quick how quick your customers will jump on board with this. And then with the right vendor relationship, your team will also find it just as easy. So that's something you want to look for. But yeah, I've had customers where, gosh, one of my best customers was out in Florida and had a managed chat service for a while, switched to Podium and doing this chat or doing texting instead of your traditional live chat. And after 2 weeks, he was blown away. He hit me up and said, "This is insane. Like our close rate, the customer satisfaction, my team is enjoying it. It's been so easy. Like we thought we were going to need several trainings, like once a week for the first like get up and go, but because it was so easy, the team jumped on it. He canceled his next training because they already felt like experts." So it's really quick, both for the customer side and for your team, if you can really nail it and just find something that's easy to use. So on to tip number 3 here, personalized experience. So with all the cool tools and technology out there, that's great. But dealerships, despite what some people may think that Toyota is just this huge conglomerate, your average dealership franchise is owned by a family, right? And has been in the community, and it is a local business. It's not some massive over the top corporate multinational business. So you sell those, but it's a franchise that you really want to provide a personalized experience with. And that's what local businesses have really always been known to do. And so it's just innovating now along with that. So we'll go over this tip, and Haley can take that away.
And just echoing what Jason was saying about local businesses already offering a personalized experience, the tips we have here are ways that you can specifically use text messaging to deliver a personalized experience, because again, we already know that you are really good at offering that one-on-one, very personalized experience where the customer comes on the lot, they tell you exactly what they're looking for, and you will curate specific products and vehicles for them that are tailored to what they're wanting. So we know that you've got that part down. So here are some tips for how to use messaging to help with the personalized experience, even when it's not in person. Tip number 1 is send personalized appointment reminders. You can do this via email or text, and it's a great way to make the experience feel customized. Include their name, date, time of the appointment, but also include any special notes or instructions that the customer may need to know before coming on the lot. If they need to wear a mask, let them know. If they need to wait in their car and text you when they get there, let them know. Whatever the procedures are, let them know then, so that they know exactly what to expect when they come on the lot.
And adding to that one too, Haley, I've seen dealerships that with the appointment reminder will send a little, just like a little bio on who they're meeting with. So it could be a picture of their technician saying, you'll be meeting with Bob. Here's his picture. Bob is a certified Honda technician for the last 5 years. Looking forward to seeing you. And so it just gets things a little more personalized. And you can do the same thing on the sell side.
And when you send that personalized appointment reminder, it opens the channel of communication for the customer, which allows them to ask and you to answer specific questions throughout the entire journey. You can check in before they come in, obviously with an appointment reminder, but if they say they hold their appointment and they test drive a few vehicles and then you don't hear from them again, that's a great way to follow up and ask and how it went. If they have questions later on, they can ask those questions. It'll be to the same thread and they know the person. If you've sent that bio, I think that's a great idea. Then it makes it more personalized and they know who they're interacting with. Which goes on to number 3, which is collecting feedback and communicating updates or changes. This is a great way. I heard a story of one of our colleagues here who wanted to purchase an RV. He had he rented an RV with his family and they went on vacation. He decided he wanted to purchase one. He looked around at a bunch of different RV dealerships and he found one that allowed texting and asked if they had this specific make and model, and they didn't. But he was already happy with that dealership because they were the first ones to get back to him. And some dealerships didn't even get back to him at all. So he got the answer to his question. But then the dealership about a week later texted him again and said, hey, we have that specific RV you're looking for now, and gave him that update and the change. And he later that week purchased the RV because that communication, that update was available to him. This is another great use case for this on the service side is if you have a car in the shop and say the customer came in for an oil change, but you noticed that the brake pads need to be changed. A lot of times you'll call the customer, you'll play phone tag a little bit, leave a message, wait for them to call back. You can't as easily work on the car because you're waiting for that answer. The response rate of text messaging is a lot higher and quicker than a phone call. So you can communicate those updates and changes and get answers a lot quicker so that they can get their car back quicker as well. Number 4 is request and collect payment with a personalized message. Jason mentioned this one earlier. This is a great way, again, to add that personal touch. And this is also another really good use case during the pandemic because a lot of times physical proximity and contact can be unsettling for some people. So offering a different and contactless way to pay can make some customers feel more comfortable. And then the last here is asking for a review. We can do a whole separate webinar on the importance of online reviews, but long story short here is reviews are really important to getting found online by new potential customers. So asking every single customer for a review is a great way to get found by more customers that you can later then ask for reviews to get found again. So that creates a very virtuous cycle of getting found, getting more customers, and getting more reviews to get more customers. So those are just some of our tips. We are on to our last section. For anyone looking at the clock, this is our last section. We only have a few slides left, but Jason's going to take us through what to look for in a text messaging solution, some of the challenges coming back to what we talked about earlier that we've seen with dealerships with implementing messaging, and then how you can overcome some of those challenges.
Thank you, Haley. So what to look for in a text messaging solution? For dealerships, I would say the biggest thing is one, ease of use, two, your integrations with your CRM and your DMS, and three, how easy is it, not only for your customer to be communicating, but for your team? I would say, I would almost put more focus on your team, because the best tool in the world, unless your team's using it, is not going to do anything for you. And then an auto dealership is really complex, compared to a lot of other types of local businesses. So that's what I would look at is, can you standardize whatever's going on? Is it going to save you time, and where are the points of contacts? So this is, those are the bullet points of the challenges. So moving on here, if you use and you're able to nail that and use text messaging and have a software that helps, you're going to find that it's just really natural. So I would look at that. That's would be the big thing, is implementing a software that your team, it's easy, like everyone's got their own login, there's accountability for who's messaging what, but you can also collaborate on it. You can transfer messages between people very easily without the customer necessarily getting an alert about it. And it's mobile too. So you got to look at the mobile app as well. In fact, that's one thing I strongly encourage. If you do look at vendors, have them demo the app in addition to their platform, because most dealerships, most people I talk to, don't wear just one hat and sit in front of a computer all day. They are wearing 10 different hats and all over the place. So it needs to be mobile too. So that would be the other thing I would look at. Now, ways Podium can help: consolidation. So inbound messages, one inbox. So if I'm sure some of you on this webinar are Podium customers, some of you may not be, but a platform that can bring your web chat messages, your Facebook messages, your Car Gurus, Carfax, like there's a lot of different sources of leads and messages coming in. A platform that can manage all of those makes things considerably easier for your team. One that you can build your online reputation. So the latest Moz report had reviews and reputation now have a heavier weighting than even proximity to that consumer. So if someone is in between two different Toyota dealerships and searching Toyota dealer near me, the one that has best and more consistent reviews coming in may appear first on that list, even if it's not the closest one to that customer. So that's a big one that we put a lot of focus on. And the fact, having something that easily connects to your website, like a little widget, get paid faster with text. I mentioned that earlier with the Apple Pay, just making things really convenient. And then that feedback piece, as Haley mentioned, people will give you feedback if you ask for it, but a lot of people, for whatever reason, don't give it to you to your face. But if you offer a way for them to give you feedback via text message after they've done business with you or visited your dealership, the response rate is quite high, and it helps you as a dealership improve which improves your CSI scores, which improves a lot, and gives you a lot of benefits. So with that, that's what we've got here. Would love to answer any additional questions and open this up with a Q&A on anything we went over.
And while we're looking at some of those questions coming in, if we don't get to your question, or you think of a question after the fact, or you try some of these tips and they work or don't work, we would love to hear from you, be here as a resource for you. And you can reach out to us at any of the ways on the screen. Our website is podium.com. You can text or call us at 1-833-276-3486, or you can email us at webinars@podium.com. Also, if you want more information on setting up text messaging and you want to see if Podium's a good fit, we'd love to talk with you. So feel free to reach out to us. And with that, we'll turn it back over to Nick for questions.
Excellent presentation from Haley Sontag and Jason Reese of Podium. And just a reminder that we are recording today's session, so keep watch of your inbox for a message arriving as soon as possible containing a link to the recording that you can review the great data and information and recommendations that Haley and Jason have shared, as well as send it around your store for others to evaluate as well. And to get our Q&A segments started, Jason, we'll start with you, and then Haley as well. Perhaps some anecdotes, not only from within the automotive space, but maybe some of the other service businesses, industries that Podium serves. As we chatted before getting started today, just how tumultuous and challenging 2020 has been. What have been some the most successful stories that either a Podium client or another business that you've heard about has succeeded despite all the challenges of this year? Jason, we'll begin with you for an anecdote, and Haley as well.
So I would say, despite these challenges, the automotive industry as a whole, I think, has really been resilient on this. And I know there's been some pretty major inventory issues, but the number of dealerships and customers I've spoken with that have been seeing record months is really, really quite amazing to me. And I would say a big success story, and I mentioned this dealership earlier, that we switched over from a managed chat service to using Podium for messaging, and really taking that customer back from, with a managed chat service, sometimes those people sound really, really canned in their responses, almost like they're not people, right? And some of them aren't. There's like web bots or chat bots out there too. And as a consumer that's looking to spend $20, $30, $40,000 plus on a vehicle, you can tell pretty quickly if you're talking to someone local or not. And so this dealership group I'm thinking of, they switched from that to Podium, and these people, right off the bat could tell that, hey, we're talking to someone local in my hometown here down the street at this family dealership that's been in the community for decades. And they could tell that right off the bat. And right off the bat, the conversion rate of these direct website leads went through the roof. It was like 10x what they were getting with the managed chat service, to having just a widget that facilitates and makes it easy for the customer and the dealership to have a two-way texting conversation. So that, I would say, that was one great example that I have.
An example.
And Haley, how about you?
Yeah, this is an example of one business specifically, but I think that it can really translate to all businesses in all industries. This was a mattress store, and when their area shut down, they had to close for business. They had to close their showroom, and they had a little bit of a harder time setting up their online retail, as a lot of retailers have done this year. They've made their website and e-commerce site a little bit more accessible. But this mattress store was having a little bit of a hard time with that. And they weren't able to implement a buy online, pick up in store method like a lot of other retailers had implemented. So what they did is they upped their communication with their customers, and they were able to take orders and then deliver the mattresses into the customer's home all through messaging. And they would communicate every step of the way. They would communicate all of their procedures, that when their technicians, I guess, or their employees would go into the customer's home to deliver the mattress, that they would wear masks, gloves, that they'd wear this protective gear to protect themselves and the customer. And it all worked out for their customers, and their sales actually went up despite their showroom being closed. This is just one example of this is a mattress store, like I said, but of a business really upping the communication and almost overly sharing what the experience is going to be with customers, and making sure that their customers had still a great experience even when things looked a little bit different. But they also set the expectations very well so that their customers knew exactly what to expect, and it worked out great. So that can translate again into all industries. Communicating with your customers, especially when things are changing, is probably the most successful thing that we've seen all businesses do this year.
Well, that's so wonderful to hear on both instances from our special guests for today's webinar, Haley Sontag and Jason Reese of Podium, sharing 3 tips for increasing customer engagement. And Haley, we'll continue with you, and Jason, your perspectives as well. It was mentioned when you conducted the bit of polling with our live attendees, and you referenced how it's an often asked question from dealerships and clients that activate a messaging platform, just how to handle all of the potential messages that come in, perhaps even 24/7. That's how the shop can navigate response times and coverage for that messaging platform. What are some best practices that you've recommended, Haley? We'll begin with you, and Jason, your perspectives as well.
Yeah, that's a question we get a lot. That's a worry with, well, what do we do when somebody is messaging me after hours and asking questions? Maybe it's really late at night, and do we need to respond? I've actually had 3 separate instances with messaging businesses after hours, and they were all 3 were very different. The first one was I messaged a jeweler about repairing my ring after hours. I did not receive a message back. I knew that they were closed, but they texted me the next day when they opened. The second one was a carpet cleaner. I got an automated message immediately after texting that said, "Thank you for your message. We are closed. We'll respond tomorrow at 8 a.m. when we open." And then they texted me the next day at 8 a.m. when they opened. The other one was, again, with the loan officer that I mentioned earlier. We texted after hours, and he responded immediately and said, "I love texting. Feel free to text me at any time." And he responded and answered my question immediately. So those are 3 instances. There are 3 ways to go about it. There's not necessarily one right answer. So whatever you prefer, and maybe what your customers prefer, is probably going to be the best option. I will say that with Podium, we do have the option to set up that automated text message so that customers know you got their message and that you'll respond back. But if you have a hot lead come in later at night, then that you prefer to respond to, then that's also a great option. We do get this question a lot because it seems like a lot of customers, when they get home from work, it's after hours, and that's when they have time to think about purchasing a vehicle or setting up an appointment at your repair shop, but you may be closed. So that's a great question that we get. There's not totally a right answer, but there are a lot of different options that you can do there.
Yeah, I would say most dealerships really like that auto response for after hours, while simultaneously still alerting, because maybe your sales rep or sales team is just watching a basketball game at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night and would be happy to respond and text back that customer. So having the auto response at least gives the option of not like the customer knows, like the lead and information has been given to the dealership, and someone will get back tomorrow, but it could be a pleasant surprise if you've got that staff member that's doesn't mind texting while they're watching that game, right? After hours or whatever it may be. So that's great. And then to the other part of that question, Nick, of like handling it with your team, I would say accountability is huge. So having a system in place where you can track your team and who's messaging, how much they're messaging, what their response time is to customers is huge, because if you can track it, you can improve it, right? And if there's someone that takes a lot of messages from customers, but only initial messages, and then takes 6 hours to respond to any ongoing messages, well, if you have the right system in place, you can limit that person from taking new messages until you coach them up, and they might be missing something on getting the alerts or whatever it is to continue to respond to that customer. So having a good process in place with the system and accountability behind your messaging is huge for managing those messages when they start coming into your dealership.
Excellent. Closing moments here with Jason Reese and Haley Tag, our special guest experts on today's webinar with Podium. 3 tips for increasing customer engagement, and there on the screen is the company's contact information, not only their website at podium.com, but a number to send the topic of the day text messages, as well as an email address as well. And Jason, we'll continue with you, and then Haley, the last word. Just some closing thoughts on perhaps some initial steps that a dealership can take if they're just venturing into the messaging world, or if they've had a process in place and looking to sharpen it, especially with how valuable it can be, given that the current landscape. Some closing thoughts here. Jason, we'll continue with you, and then Haley, the last word.
Yeah. Closing thoughts. I mean, I would say with messaging, it just starts with jumping in and trying it out, right? So if you can look at your current technology and your current providers and see if there's an option there. I know, for example, with Podium, we've been in business for 6 years, and we have a lot of old customers that signed up for Podium when all we did was reviews and review invites. And some of these customers have no idea the robust texting and messaging functionality that we have. And so, like, if you're a customer and that's the case for you, like, give us a call. Like a lot of this messaging is included in that base package that you signed up for years ago. And that might be the case with some of your current vendors. If you're not a Podium customer today, like, you could start there and see what that messaging looks like. And if you like it, try it out. A lot of times there might not be any extra costs associated. And if you want to look for something more robust, there's a lot of options out there. And I would say, start with Podium. You'll likely finish with Podium because of how easy we're going to make it and whatnot for you.
And with that said, there are a lot of, maybe not a lot, but there are some ways that you can set up messaging for your business that don't cost anything to you. So for example, if you do already have a textable number, maybe you have a mobile phone number that is a cell phone for your dealership, you can add that number to your Google My Business listing today. You sign into your Google My Business account and you can sign that or assign that number, which will create the Google Business Chat icon on your Google My Business listing, which will allow customers to text you through that. Also, if you are publishing that number on your website and on your Google My Business listing and any other directory listings you have, then people can SMS text message you there. You can also just turn on your Facebook Messenger page and your Instagram direct messenger. So those are all ways that you can start setting up messaging for your business. But technology has really changed the customer's expectations and what they are requiring for businesses. So this is a great way for you to also be leveraging technology to keep up with that. We've talked a lot about the benefits of messaging for your customers, but there can also be a lot of benefits for your dealership if you can implement it in a way that is convenient and frictionless and efficient for your dealership as well. Jason mentioned earlier, and I'll say it again, that if your team isn't using the process that you've set up for messaging, then it's not going to be nearly as effective as if there's a way that is really easy and standardized and convenient for your team as well, which will in turn make it a better experience for your customers. And a way to do that is through a text messaging software. If Podium isn't the right answer, we do recommend finding something that can help you manage these conversations to make it easier on your dealership and convenient for your customers as well.
That's Haley Sontag, Jason Reese from Podium. So much great information and recommendations. Haley, Jason, thank you so much for taking the time to orchestrate today's webinar. Certainly all the best to you and your families and friends to stay safe and healthy and have a wonderful holiday season.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
And on behalf of all of us at Cherokee Media Group, we thank you for joining us, and we look forward to having you again next time.